Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Friday, December 29th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Cotton Bowl game against Missouri is today. The game against Michigan in 337 days. With the Cotton Bowl game today, the last thing we got to do before we go to the game today was talk to the Ohio State head coach, Ryan Day, the Missouri head coach, Eli Drinkwitz, at the traditional day before the game head coach press conference. And those guys had a ton of interesting things to say. In fact, there was so much interesting stuff that there's going to be another show with some of the more big picture things that were asked about that you're going to get to hear on Sunday. But for now, we're going to be focused more on the game today between the Buckeyes and the Tigers. First thing we're going to be talking about, helmet radios. Obviously, sign stealing has been a bit of a story this college football season. And with that in mind, the folks that run college football said, all right, we're going to change it up. You have the option to potentially use helmet radios starting with bowl season this year. So are they planning to use them during the game, either team, later on tonight? You're going to hear actually from both coaches, first from Ryan Day.
Had a discussion about it, and I think we both agree. I don't want to speak for you, Eli, but that down the road it makes a lot of sense. But to try to, with everything going on right now, to try to manage a game without having done it all season, we felt like it was probably something we want to have a spring practice and a preseason to work through because of the unintended consequence for something new, a new variable. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I mean, December's got enough challenges for us to try to figure out how to communicate on the sideline and get the communication in was just something that didn't make a lot of sense for us. And so, Coach Day and I have a good working relationship and made a call and decided that made the most sense for us.
There are a lot of very interesting storylines for tonight's game, but the biggest one for probably most people is the fact that Ohio State has a new starting quarterback. His name is Devon Brown. He has not started a game before, but he's going to be doing it on national TV, primetime, New Year's Six bowl game against a top 10 opponent. No pressure, kid. So how has this year and the quarterback battle that Devon Brown went through over the summer and all the trials and tribulations and ups and downs of that whole year, how has that helped prepare him to now be the starter for tonight's game?
Yeah, I think Devon has always had in his mind that he wants to get on the field. He's been competitive since the day he stepped on campus. I know he's looking forward to playing in this game. I think he's also seen big games. He's been around it. He's seen a couple different quarterbacks play ahead of him, so he knows what the preparation looks like. He was right there with Kyle in the preseason. We talked about this before, and then got him in a little bit in the a couple of the games just to kind of get his feet wet, and then he got hurt in the Penn State game, and so we weren't able to get him in the game as much. But we were ready to put him in the game, a few times this season, and you saw him play a little bit. But now he gets an opportunity to play a whole game, and so I mean he's prepared at a high level, and the guys believe in him because of what he's done the last few weeks in practice.
One of the big technically unanswered questions right now is, will Marvin Harrison play or not in the Cotton Bowl? He didn't practice either of the days that we got a chance to watch practice, so that obviously is sort of suggestive of the fact that he is not planning to play. They would not comment one way or the other, said that's really there, and up to the players in terms of who announces whether they're playing or not. That's not his job, so he wouldn't talk about that. But either way, whether Marvin Harrison plays tonight or not, what is his legacy at Ohio State?
Marvin's been a pro ever since he stepped in our building, and it started. Everyone wants to talk about his dad and everything like that, and what he's done, and being a Pro Football Hall of Famer, and he certainly did a great job raising his son with his mom. But Marvin's his own man, and he had big shoes to fill. He's got his father's name, but from the minute he stepped in our building, you knew that he was going to be a pro. The hours and hours and hours he spends on that jugs machine, the hours he spends in the film room, the way he takes care of his body, everything about it has been a pro. His professionalism. I mean, there's been times where after a game, I'll come over to the facility, and maybe it wasn't even a drop pass. He's in the facility after a game, hours, catching the ball, going over that same one again because it didn't get right in the game. And I think that legacy that he's leaving behind to the younger players is tremendous. And I think it's been said publicly, so I don't think I'm putting him out there. But when you ask him, what do you want to do in football? He says, I want to be the best receiver to ever play the game. Like, whoa. And your habits have to reflect that. They do. And that's what's special about Marvin.
When you were in a college football bowl game that is not part of the college football playoff, there's always a little bit of an eye towards next year. Sure, you want to finish this year on a strong note, but it's also a chance, bowl practice, bowl prep, even the bowl game, a chance to get some of the younger guys a bigger role on the team to sort of start getting them ready for next season. So if you're Ryan Day, how do you balance getting some of those guys reps, potentially in the game tonight, with all of the other factors you've got to consider?
Well, we want to win the game. That's the number one thing. So we're going to go in and do everything we possibly can to win the game, and then go from there. But there are going to be some opportunities for guys to take on new roles in this game, different than has been this season. So I'm excited for them, and we've seen that before. You think about the Rose Bowl a couple years ago where, Marv and Mech went into the game and, did a great job that freshman year, and it really built momentum into the offseason for them. So, both. I mean, I think, guys are going to play and we're going to win the game. That's the number one thing. But at the same time, opportunity for some younger guys to get in there and build some momentum for their future.
Speaking of ways that this game could impact the 2024 Buckeyes, how much does this game and what Devon Brown looks like on the field later tonight, how much is that going to impact the plan for the quarterback room in 2024? Does that mean, a great game and then they're not going to even think about going in the portal? If he has a bad game, does that mean they're definitely going to go in the portal? Is that going to change whether there's a truly open competition between the guys currently on the roster? Is this going to be a one game that has a lot to do with 2024 and the decisions there, or is this kind of one piece of a much bigger picture?
Well, I know that everybody in this game has got an opportunity to build some momentum for next year, and Devon's exactly in that situation. This is exactly what he wanted. He wanted this opportunity, and so he's taken it and run the last few weeks, and I think the guys on the team feel it. They feel his presence out there, and so this is what a great opportunity for him to do that. And we'll once the season's over, we'll kind of figure out where we're at with everything. But as of right now, I mean, he's our quarterback, and we're moving forward. And this is a great opportunity for him to go build more confidence with the guys around him as we head into next season.
So that's a little bit about how this game will impact the Buckeyes and Devon Brown. But how about Missouri? Tony Gerdeman asked a really interesting question of Eli Drinkwitz. Is preparing for a game when you're facing a quarterback who only has a little bit of game film, he's only thrown 22 passes all season. So is preparing for a quarterback who really you don't have a lot of film to go off of, is that easier or is that harder because there's just so little to base your scouting report on?
As soon as it was announced that Devon was going to be the starting quarterback, we pulled every one of his plays to watch it, and that was probably a big mistake because it shows the diversity of things that he can do. And then understanding Coach Day's past and Coach Hartline's past, you realize that there's such a variety of things that they'll be able to adapt and make this offense go with his skill set. So it'll be a challenge. We'll be reactive. We'll have to react to see what his style of game plan is. I was hoping he would tell us today, but y'all didn't ask any of those questions. So we'll figure it out. I think the one thing about Blake and his style of defense is, we have the ability to create width with our defense and our odd front. We have the ability to get into heavy personnel if they go heavy and try to establish the run. So we'll just have to figure out what style of game it becomes and then react to it. But, like Coach said, their quarterback's very talented. He throws the ball very well, runs it very well, and you can tell that he's very good as far as leadership. I was hoping that he would give me a speaker too, but I didn't see that in my locker. So,
well, those guys were both very, very interesting to talk to. A lot of really interesting stuff that came out of that press conference. We're going to be having another show, as I mentioned, a couple days from now. Tomorrow's show, obviously, going to be about the game, but the show on the 31st, on Sunday, you're going to be hearing much more from those guys about a lot of kind of bigger picture topics, including the 12-team playoff next year, potential changes to the college football calendar, Chip Kelly's idea about splitting off the top teams into a whole separate division, a lot of really interesting stuff. So we're going to let you hear from those guys again in a couple of days because there was a lot of good stuff, and frankly, it's just going to get lost if we do it today. So you'll hear from that in a little bit. But also, before we get there is a football game happening in Arlington, Texas tonight. Starts at 8 o'clock, a little after 8 o'clock. Eastern time, we will be there. You can find us at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle and BuckeyeHuddle.com. Kevin, Tony, and I covering the game. We'll have our usual post-game show for you live as soon as the game ends. There's going to be a lot to talk about. There's going to be plenty to discuss. I'm going to have a lot to talk about. I'm guessing about the quarterback position, a lot to talk about the Buckeyes on the whole, and then we'll find out all sorts of NFL draft decisions and all that coming up in the next couple weeks. So it's going to be an eventful January at BuckeyeHuddle.com. So make sure you join us there. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.